This week in Jamaica Now. Deported 17 Jamaicans return home from the United Kingdom in controversial repatriation. And a UK MP has raised more questions about deportation.
When will Black Lives Matter once again?
Health Ministry says all 3 Jamaicans in isolation have tested negative for the coronavirus. Electoral office prepares for Clarendon South East by-election. An independent candidate will challenge newcomer Pearnel Charles Jr. Western Union Portmore branch closed after thieves break in. And Christie to become the new Integrity Commission boss. I'm Damian Mitchell and this is Jamaica Now. Another 17 deportees from the United Kingdom arrived in Kingston on Tuesday, raising speculation whether the British government will accept the recommendations of the Windrush Review. Some 33 other Jamaicans were expected to be on the deportation flight, but their repatriation was halted by a last-minute Court of Appeal ruling. The court ruled that it must be satisfied that while in detention, the deportees were provided with functioning cell phone SIM cards before February 3. This means they would have been able to contact their lawyers. Anne-Marie Williams and Ricardo Samuels were among the few relatives at the Harmon Barracks police outfit in Kingston to receive their loved ones.
I talk with him. I try to tell him the circumstances. I ask him to cope with it. It must be either for better or can't for worse because you have life.
So you're making sure that you have proper support while here with you at the time?
Well, come on.
And them man they was a breadwinner, so in a way. Even though I never have papers, but him jovial and him still I try to get him thing when I level. Because through him he get caught up when I look at basis and then him go there so no, but him still goes with a mindset to come out and love certain thing. Because I do him work, as I tell you, I do some art, you know them design roof thing there.
In the meantime, the British government says all of the deportees were criminal convicts who have served times for a range of offences. But British MP David Lammy has raised concern about his government's decision to send home people who migrated to the UK as children.
And in the wake of the leak, where Wendy Williams herself says that you should not be deporting people under the age of 13, can he confirm that there are people on that flight who arrived in this country age 2, age 3, age 5, age 11?
Mr. Lammy also wants to know why the UK government has not released the Windrush Review report, which has made recommendations about the deportation of Caribbean natives and their children.
And when he relies and says to the House that all of them are, or gives the impression that they are murderers and rapists, he knows that there are many who are there for non-violent offences. We cannot, at the same time in this House, condemn county lines and those who would pimp young black children in this country and send those same children back to Jamaica for such drug offences. So I say to him, when will we see this lessons learned review? It was promised in March last year. It was then delayed till September. We are almost now 2 years on.
In other news, the Health Ministry has reported that the 3 Jamaicans who were isolated after their return from China have all tested negative for the coronavirus. The 3rd Jamaican landed in Montego Bay, St. James earlier this week. Medical officials had become concerned after the Jamaicans presented with flu-like symptoms. On the new protocol, all Jamaicans returning home from China will be quarantined for 14 days. However, those with symptoms will be isolated. The Electoral Office of Jamaica is now intensifying preparations for the March 2 by-election in Clarendon South East following Wednesday's nomination of 2 candidates. Independent candidate Derek Lambert and the Jamaica Labour Party's Pearnel Charles Jr. will face off in what the EOJ says will be the 6th parliamentary by-election since the 2016 general election. They will be seeking to replace Roddy Spencer, who has resigned. Lambert, who ran on a PNP ticket in 2011, says he is confident of victory.
You'll be right in history. This is Derek Lambert's destiny. I have no long message, but let me put the thing in perspective. I was on my mountain top. Minding my own business, which is always the people's business. I was just waiting on this moment. You might not believe it. This is prophetic.
And Charles Jr. says he is willing to put in the work to win the hearts of the entire Clarendon South East constituency.
Every home, every institution, every school, every road in South East is going to feel my boot heel. So I expect that Robert Morgan and other members of the team will put together and buy me at least 6 shoes because I'm going to need it.
The Western Union outlet in the Portmore Pines Plaza in St. Catherine is likely to reopen next week following Wednesday night's break-in. Criminals gained entry by making a hole in the wall. They also damaged electrical and telephone cables as well as a vault. The thieves left behind a handheld equipment used in the break-in. It is not clear whether they made off with cash. Grace Kennedy's group CEO, Don Webby, reported that in recent times there have been several break-ins at Western Union locations. However, he said since late last year, there had been increased surveillance, so he is confident that the perpetrators will be caught. The private sector organization of Jamaica and the National Integrity Action have welcomed the appointment of former Contractor General Greg Christie as the new Executive Director of the Integrity Commission. The appointment will take effect on May 18. Colonel Daniel Price has been the interim head of the commission for the past 2 years. Mr. Christie is currently the director of the Integrity Commission of the Turks and Caicos Islands. Following the usual pomp and pageantry, Governor General Sir Patrick Allen this week opened the 2020-2021 budget year. The government is projecting to spend $852.67 billion for the new fiscal year. This is $6.4 billion lower than the previous year when the budget was $859.07 billion. The new budget includes $778 billion for recurrent or housekeeping expenses and $74.2 billion for capital spending. Capital expenses relate to new projects like the construction of roads, schools, and bridges. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the government continues to prioritize capital investments, but approximately 17% or $132.65 billion of the recurrent budget will go to debt servicing. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. You may tune in to Power 106 FM for regular updates. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. I'm Damian Mitchell, and before we go, more from British MP David Lammy as he spoke in the British Parliament about the deportation of Jamaicans.
It was 2 years since there was consensus in this House at the way that the Windrush generation had been treated in this country. This is a generation of people, thousands of them, who came to this country after the Second World War and gave so much but took so little. Yeah. Let me just remind the Minister, 164 people were detained and deported, which the government says it got wrong. On the back of that, 5,000 people were denied access to public services, healthcare, pensions, education, all that they were entitled to. And when he relies and says to the House that all of them are, or gives the impression that they are murderers and rapists, he knows that there are many who are there for non-violent offences. We cannot, at the same time in this House, condemn county lines and those who would pimp young black children in this country and send those same children back to Jamaica for such drug offences. So I say to him, when will we see this lessons learned review and people watching see the way that this government holds in such disrespect the contribution of West Indian, Caribbean and black people in this country? When will Black Lives Matter once again?